Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Chat Studio, the place where you improve your English naturally, confidently, and step by step. I'm Naina, and I'm really happy you're here with us today because this episode can completely change the way you think about learning English.
And I'm Mon. Today we're talking about something every English learner struggles with at some point. Why speaking English feels difficult, even when you already know grammar and vocabulary. More importantly, we'll show you how to train your brain to speak English more naturally and confidently.
Exactly. A lot of learners spend years studying English. They memorize vocabulary lists, complete grammar exercises, and watch countless videos. But when someone suddenly speaks to them in English, their mind goes blank. They know the words, but they still can't respond smoothly.
Yes, and if that happens to you, don't worry. It doesn't mean you're bad at English. In fact, this is one of the most common experiences for language learners around the world. The real issue is not intelligence or talent. The issue is brain training.
That's such an important point. Many people treat English like a school subject instead of a communication skill. They focus so much on grammar rules that their brain never becomes comfortable using English in real conversations.
Exactly. Imagine your brain like a pathway. If you rarely speak English, that pathway stays weak and slow. But every time you listen, speak, repeat, or think in English, the pathway becomes stronger. Over time, your brain starts responding more naturally, without translating every sentence.
And translation is another big problem for learners. Many people first think in their native language and then try to convert everything into English. That process takes time, creates stress, and makes speaking feel difficult.
Right. Fluent speakers usually don't translate word by word. Their brain becomes familiar with common English expressions through repetition. Instead of building every sentence from zero, their mind automatically remembers useful phrases and patterns.
Another major reason people freeze while speaking is fear. Some learners are terrified of making mistakes. They worry about pronunciation, grammar, or what others will think about them.
And honestly, perfection is one of the biggest enemies of fluency. People think fluent speakers never make mistakes, but that's not true at all. Fluent speakers continue talking even when they make small errors. They focus on communication, not perfection.
That's true. Nervousness slows the brain down. When learners overthink every sentence, they lose confidence and stop speaking naturally. But communication doesn't require perfect grammar every second.
Exactly. Think about children learning their first language. They make mistakes constantly, but they keep speaking anyway. That continuous practice is what trains the brain.
Another thing learners need to understand is this. Listening and speaking are different skills. You may understand English very well while listening to podcasts or videos, but speaking requires your brain to produce language quickly in real time.
And if you rarely practice speaking, your brain never develops that automatic response. That's why active speaking practice is so important. Even simple daily conversations with yourself can help.
The good news is that your brain is flexible. It can improve at any age. With enough repetition, exposure, and confidence-building practice, your brain slowly becomes faster and more comfortable with English.
Exactly. Fluency isn't magic. It's a habit your brain develops over time. The more you expose yourself to English every day, the more natural it begins to feel.
And in today's episode, we're going to explore practical ways to train your brain for English fluency. We'll talk about daily habits, common mistakes, and simple techniques that can make speaking much easier.
So stay with us, because in the next part, we're going to explain what it truly means to train your brain for English and why daily repetition changes the way your mind processes language.
Have you ever wondered why some learners improve rapidly while others stay stuck for years, even after studying hard? In the next part, we'll uncover the hidden difference that completely changes the fluency journey.
Welcome back, everyone.
In the first part, we talked about why so many English learners freeze while speaking and how fear, translation, and lack of speaking practice affect fluency. Now, let's go deeper into something very important. What does it actually mean to train your brain for English?
Yes, because many learners hear that phrase all the time. People say things like, you need to think in English, or train your brain for fluency. But most learners are never shown what that really means in daily life.
Exactly. Training your brain simply means helping your mind become familiar and comfortable with English through repetition, exposure, and active use. Just like your body becomes stronger through exercise, your brain becomes faster with English through consistent practice.
Think about your native language for a second. You don't stop and analyze grammar before answering someone. You don't translate simple ideas in your head before speaking. Your brain responds automatically because you've used that language thousands of times throughout your life.
And that's the same process English learners need to build. Real fluency starts when English becomes automatic inside your brain, instead of feeling like a difficult puzzle you have to solve every time you speak.
Exactly. At first, your brain may resist English because it feels unfamiliar. That's normal. New habits always feel uncomfortable in the beginning. But the more your brain hears and uses English, the more natural it becomes over time.
This is why consistency matters so much. Some learners study English for 5 hours one day and then stop practicing for an entire week. Unfortunately, that doesn't help the brain develop strong language habits.
Right. Your brain learns better through small daily repetition. Even 15 or 20 minutes of active English every day can create stronger results than one long study session once a week.
And active English is very important here. Passive learning alone is not enough. Watching videos without speaking, repeating, or thinking in English may improve listening a little, but fluency requires active brain involvement.
Exactly. Your brain becomes stronger when you actively respond to the language. For example, repeating sentences aloud, answering questions, describing your surroundings, or reacting to English conversations trains your brain much faster.
Another important thing learners should understand is that the brain remembers language better through emotion and repetition. That's why memorable conversations, funny stories, emotional moments, and daily speaking practice help language stay in your memory longer.
Yes, your brain pays more attention to things that feel useful or emotional. That's why learning random vocabulary lists often feels difficult, but remembering phrases from real conversations feels much easier.
And speaking of phrases, fluent English is usually learned in chunks, not one word at a time. Native speakers don't build every sentence slowly, word by word. Their brain remembers complete expressions naturally.
Exactly. For example, instead of learning only the word excited, learners should practice full expressions like, I'm really excited about that, or that sounds exciting. These complete phrases become automatic after repetition.
True. This also helps learners think faster. When your brain stores ready-made phrases, you don't need to create every sentence from zero during conversations.
And that's one of the biggest differences between beginners and fluent speakers. Fluent speakers have trained their brain to recognize and use common sentence patterns automatically.
Another helpful habit is thinking in English during simple daily activities. For example, while making breakfast, you can silently say things like, I need some coffee, or I'm running late today.
At first, that feels strange because your brain isn't used to it. But after some time, your mind slowly starts creating direct connections with English instead of depending completely on translation.
And learners should remember something very important. Progress in language learning is usually invisible at first. Sometimes you feel stuck, but your brain is still building connections quietly in the background.
Exactly. Many learners quit too early because they expect instant fluency. But real progress happens gradually. One day you suddenly notice that you understood a conversation faster or answered a question without translating first.
That's your brain adapting to the language little by little. Fluency is not one magical moment. It's the result of many small repetitions over time.
So if you truly want to train your brain for English, focus less on perfection and more on daily exposure, repetition, and active communication.
Because the goal is not to sound perfect overnight. The goal is to make English feel familiar, comfortable, and natural inside your mind.
And in the next part, we're going to discuss powerful daily habits that can dramatically improve your English fluency faster than most traditional study methods.
What if just 15 minutes of the right daily practice could completely change the speed and confidence of your English speaking? In the next part, we'll reveal the exact habits fluent learners use every single day. Welcome back, everyone. In the previous part, we talked about how the brain learns languages through repetition, exposure, and active use. Now it's time for the most practical section of today's episode: daily habits that can seriously improve your English fluency over time.
And the best part is that you don't need expensive courses or perfect grammar to train your brain. What you truly need is consistency and smart daily practice.
Exactly. Many learners think fluency comes from studying complicated grammar books for hours, but often the biggest improvement comes from small habits repeated every day.
So let's start with the first habit. Listen to English daily. Your brain learns language by hearing it repeatedly. When you listen to podcasts, interviews, YouTube videos, or conversations every day, your brain slowly becomes familiar with English pronunciation, rhythm, and sentence patterns.
And here's something important. Don't only listen passively. Active listening is much more powerful. Pause the audio, repeat sentences aloud, and pay attention to how native speakers connect words quickly.
Yes, many learners understand textbook English, but real spoken English feels difficult because native speakers connect words quickly. Active listening trains your brain to recognize natural speech faster.
Another extremely effective habit is speaking out loud every single day, even if you are alone. A lot of learners spend months reading and listening, but avoid speaking completely.
And that creates a problem because fluency grows when your mouth and brain work together. Your brain needs practice producing English, not just understanding it.
Exactly. You can start very simply. Describe your daily routine, talk about your plans, explain what you're doing, or even react to things around you in English.
For example, while cleaning your room, you might say, "I need to organize these books," or "I should finish my work today." These small habits train your brain to think faster in English. For example, while cleaning your room, you might say, "I need to organize these books," or "I should finish my work today." These small habits train your brain to think faster in English.
Another powerful technique is shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a native speaker and immediately repeating what they say with the same pronunciation, rhythm, and emotion.
Yes, and shadowing is amazing because it improves several skills at the same time: listening, speaking, pronunciation, confidence, and speaking speed.
At first, shadowing may feel difficult because your brain struggles to keep up. But after daily practice, your pronunciation and fluency improve naturally without forcing yourself.
Even 10 minutes of shadowing every day can create noticeable improvement over time.
Another excellent habit is thinking in English during normal daily activities. Many learners only use English during study time, but fluent speakers make English part of everyday life.
Exactly. When you wake up in the morning, try simple thoughts like, "I'm still tired," or "I need to make breakfast." During the day, continue creating small English thoughts naturally.
This slowly reduces the habit of translation because your brain starts creating direct connections with English words and ideas. And here's another important habit. Learn phrases instead of isolated words. Many learners memorize huge vocabulary lists, but they still struggle to speak naturally. That's because real communication happens through patterns and expressions. Instead of learning only the word busy, learn full phrases like, "I've been really busy lately," or "Today's schedule is packed." Exactly.
Your brain remembers connected language more easily than random individual words. Another habit that helps a lot is repeating useful expressions again and again. Repetition may sound boring, but repetition is exactly how the brain builds fluency. Think about musicians or athletes. They repeat the same movements thousands of times until those movements become automatic. Language learning works the same way. And one more thing learners should remember: consistency is more important than intensity. Studying for 20 minutes every day is usually more effective than studying for 5 hours once a week. Because daily exposure keeps English active inside your brain. The longer you disappear from the language, the harder it becomes for your brain to respond quickly.
Another useful tip is surrounding yourself with English as much as possible. Change your phone language, follow English content creators, read simple English articles, or keep English audio playing in the background. The goal is to help your brain feel that English is part of your normal environment, instead of something foreign and stressful. And remember, progress may feel slow at first, but every small repetition strengthens your brain little by little.
Exactly. Fluency isn't built in one dramatic moment. It grows through small daily habits repeated consistently over time.
And in the next part, we're going to move into real-life conversation practice and also discuss some common mistakes that secretly stop learners from becoming fluent faster.
Are you accidentally making habits that slow down your English progress without realizing it? In the next part, we'll uncover the hidden mistakes most learners repeat every day and how to fix them quickly.
Welcome back, everyone. So far, we've talked about how the brain learns English and the daily habits that improve fluency. Now it's time for something very important: real conversation practice and the common mistakes that stop learners from improving faster.
Exactly. Listening to natural conversations helps train your brain to understand and respond more quickly in real situations. So let's imagine we're having a casual conversation about learning English and building fluency habits.
Sounds good. So, what's one thing you personally do every day to stay connected with English?
Honestly, I try to listen to English while doing simple activities like walking, making coffee, or organizing my workspace. I've noticed that daily exposure keeps my brain comfortable with the language.
That's true. I think consistency matters much more than studying for many hours one day and then stopping for several days afterward.
Exactly. Even small daily practice helps train the brain gradually. And another thing I do is speak out loud when I'm alone. Sometimes I describe what I'm doing or talk about my plans for the day in English.
I actually do the same thing. At first, it felt strange, but over time, it really helped me think faster without translating everything.
Yes. And I think many learners are afraid of speaking because they want every sentence to sound perfect immediately.
That's one of the biggest problems. Real fluency grows when you stop worrying too much about mistakes and simply start using the language naturally.
Exactly. Mistakes are part of learning. Children make thousands of mistakes while learning their first language, but they continue speaking confidently anyway.
And repetition helps a lot too. When your brain hears and uses the same phrases repeatedly, speaking becomes more automatic and much less stressful.
Absolutely. Fluency is not about speaking perfectly every second. It's about communicating ideas clearly and confidently, little by little.
Now, let's talk about some common mistakes English learners make, because honestly, almost everyone experiences these at some point.
Definitely. And the first major mistake is waiting to become perfect before speaking.
Yes, many learners say things like, "I need more vocabulary first," or "My grammar isn't good enough yet." But fluency doesn't come from waiting. It comes from practice and real communication.
Exactly. If you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you delay the brain training process. Your brain improves by using English, not by avoiding it.
Another huge mistake is focusing too much on grammar and not enough on listening and speaking.
Grammar is important, of course, but communication skills develop through real interaction.
Some learners know advanced grammar rules, but still struggle during simple conversations.
That happens because their brain has knowledge but lacks speaking experience. Language is a skill, not only information.
Another mistake is studying English inconsistently. Many learners practice very hard for 2 or 3 days and then completely stop for a week.
That happens because their brain has knowledge but lacks speaking experience. Language is a skill, not only information.
Another mistake is studying English inconsistently. Many learners practice very hard for 2 or 3 days and then completely stop for a week.
And that makes it difficult for the brain to build strong language connections. Daily repetition is much more effective than occasional intense study sessions.
Exactly. Even 15 minutes every day can create powerful improvement over time.
Another common issue is translating every sentence from your native language into English before speaking.
Yes, that habit slows the brain down and creates unnecessary pressure. Instead, learners should practice thinking in simple English directly, even if the sentences are short and basic at first.
And here's another important point. Many learners compare themselves to others too much.
That's true. Some people become discouraged when they see someone speaking English more fluently online.
But every learner has a different journey, different background, and different learning speed. Comparing yourself constantly only creates frustration.
Exactly. The most important thing is improving little by little, compared to your past self, not competing with other learners.
Another mistake many people make is being afraid of pronunciation mistakes.
Yes, but pronunciation improves naturally through listening and speaking practice. You don't need a perfect accent to communicate successfully.
Confidence matters much more than sounding perfect. Clear communication is always more important than flawless pronunciation.
And learners should also avoid trying to memorize too much information at once. Sometimes people overwhelm themselves with huge vocabulary lists and complicated grammar rules.
Exactly. Your brain learns better through small, repeated exposure instead of overloaded study sessions.
So remember this: fluency grows through action, repetition, patience, and confidence.
And if you continue using English consistently, your brain slowly becomes faster, calmer, and more natural during conversations.
In the final part, we're going to summarize everything we discussed today and share one powerful mindset shift that can completely transform your English learning journey. What if the biggest thing stopping your fluency isn't your grammar or vocabulary, but the way you think about learning English itself? In the final part, we'll reveal the mindset that changes everything for successful learners.
Welcome back to the final part of today's episode. We've talked about why the brain freezes in English, how fluency develops through repetition, the daily habits that improve speaking, and the mistakes many learners make. Now, let's finish with perhaps the most important topic of all: mindset.
Exactly. Because sometimes the biggest obstacle in language learning is not grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation. It's the way learners think about the learning process itself.
That's so true. Many people treat English like a race. They expect themselves to become fluent within a few weeks or months, and when progress feels slow, they become frustrated and discouraged.
But real fluency doesn't happen overnight. Language learning is a gradual process. Your brain needs time to build strong connections with new sounds, patterns, and expressions.
Exactly. Think about learning any other skill. If someone wants to play the guitar, they don't expect to become amazing after practicing for only a few days.
Right. They understand that improvement happens through repetition and patience. English works the same way. Every conversation, every sentence you repeat, and every minute of practice strengthens your brain little by little.
Another important mindset change is this: stop focusing so much on perfection and start focusing on progress.
Yes, many learners feel disappointed because they still make mistakes while speaking English.
But mistakes are not signs of failure. Mistakes are signs that you are practicing, experimenting, and learning.
Exactly. Every fluent English speaker you admire today was once a beginner too. They also struggled with pronunciation, confidence, grammar, and speaking speed at some point. The difference is that they kept going. They didn't quit after making mistakes or feeling embarrassed. And that consistency is what slowly transforms the brain. The more your brain hears and uses English, the more natural the language becomes.
Another thing learners should remember is that progress is not always obvious immediately. Sometimes you feel like nothing is improving, but your brain is quietly adapting in the background.
Then one day you suddenly realize you understood a conversation more easily or responded faster than before.
Exactly. Those small moments are proof that your brain is changing little by little.
And confidence grows the same way. Confidence doesn't appear magically before you start speaking. Confidence grows because you continue speaking despite feeling nervous sometimes.
That's such an important point. Waiting to feel ready often keeps learners stuck for years.
Real growth happens when you start using English before everything feels perfect.
So instead of asking yourself, am I fluent yet? Try asking yourself, am I improving little by little?
Because small improvement every day eventually creates massive progress over time.
Now let's quickly summarize what we discussed in today's episode.
First, we learned that the brain freezes mainly because it is not trained for real-time English communication and often depends too much on translation.
Then we talked about what it really means to train your brain, building daily habits through listening, speaking, repetition, and thinking in English consistently.
We also discussed powerful habits like active listening, shadowing, speaking out loud, learning phrases instead of isolated words, and practicing every single day.
And finally, we explored common mistakes like waiting for perfection, studying inconsistently, overthinking grammar, and comparing yourself too much to other learners.
The truth is simple. Fluency grows through action, patience, repetition, and confidence.
So don't just study English occasionally. Try to live with English a little every day. Even 10 or 15 minutes of daily practice can slowly transform the way your brain understands and speaks the language.
And most importantly, trust yourself. Your brain is capable of learning much more than you think.
All right, everyone, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We truly hope this conversation helped you feel more motivated and confident about your English journey.
And now we'd love to hear from you. What is your biggest challenge in speaking English? Is it confidence, vocabulary, pronunciation, or thinking too slowly? Let us know in the comments below because your feedback helps us create better episodes for you.
If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please support the channel by liking this video and sharing it with other English learners.
And don't forget to subscribe to English Chat Studio so you never miss future episodes designed to help you speak English more naturally and confidently.
Keep practicing, stay consistent, and remember, your fluency journey is only getting started.
Take care, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next episode of English Chat Studio.